You've done enough. Have you no sense of decency, sir? At long last, have you left no sense of decency?
The McCarthy era, lasting between 1947 and 1954, was sparked by mass hysteria over communism and the Second Red Scare. McCarthyism led to many detrimental effects to American society, including the destruction of the lives and careers of many Americans, specifically those in the public eye. This anti-communist witch hunt destroyed the United States' innocent image of moral justice and civil liberty.
It was July 1945. Harry S. Truman was bound for Europe at a meeting of the Grand Alliance, the coalition of the three leading Allied powers of World War II. The American president was poised between two of history's greatest battles, the World War that was ending and the Cold War that would replace it.
Anti-communist attitudes appeared in the United States after the defeat of the Axis powers in World War II. Following World War II, the two main powers of the world were the United States and the Soviet Union. The domination of these powers eventually led to the nonviolent conflict between the U.S. and the former USSR, known as the Cold War.
In the spring of 1946, Winston Churchill traveled to the United States. He tried to shock Americans out of their complacency. In a speech at Fulton, Missouri, carried on radio, he warned them how the Soviets were acting in Europe.
From Stettin in the Baltic to Trieste in the Adriatic, an iron curtain has descended across the continent. Behind that line lie all the capitals of the ancient states of Central and Eastern Europe.
Winston Churchill's Iron Curtain speech further ignited communist hysteria when he stated, "Nobody knows what Soviet Russia and its communist international organization intends to do in the immediate future, or what are the limits, if any, to their expansive and proselytizing tendencies. This means the Soviets could be plotting against the United States." This scared many Americans. In addition to the Iron Curtain speech, a great deal of anti-communist propaganda was used to scare citizens into resenting communists. The utilization of propaganda by the government made communism hated by many individuals in America.
In recognizing a communist, physical appearance counts for nothing. If he openly declares himself to be a communist, we take his word for it. If a person consistently reads and advocates the views expressed in a communist publication, he may be a communist. If a person supports organizations which reflect communist teachings, or organizations labeled communist by the Department of Justice, she may be a communist. If a person defends the activities of communist nations while consistently attacking the domestic and foreign policy of the United States, she may be a communist. If a person does all these things over a period of time, he must be a communist.
Increased panic arose in the United States as Americans saw communism spreading farther and farther throughout the world. In China, a communist leader, Mao Zedong, expelled the government of Chiang Kai-shek and formed the People's Republic of China. In the United States, Americans saw the adoption of communism in China as evidence of Soviet expansionism. American fear increased when the communists of North Korea invaded South Korea in 1950. This period following the adoption of communist governments in Asia is known as the Second Red Scare. Joseph McCarthy took advantage of the communist panic and began using his own brand of McCarthyism to fight it. After Republicans gained control of the Senate, Senator Joseph McCarthy of Wisconsin was assigned the position of chairman of the Senate subcommittee. In late February of 1950, Joseph McCarthy gave his speech warning of communism in America. In this speech, he even gave specific names of people working in the state and listed their crimes. In this speech, McCarthy compared the battle between communistic atheism and Christianity. He created the image that communism was destructive and completely evil by comparing it to atheism, which was frowned upon at the time. In his speech, he discussed Joseph Stalin, the Russian communist leader, and the communist revolution in China. As he creates this atmosphere of complete fear over communism, he goes on to accuse 57 individuals who he says would appear to be either card-carrying members or certainly loyal to the Communist Party.
Today, the most dangerous enemy agent is not so much concerned with the secret information about weapons as he is with infiltrating the necessary departments of the government and shaping and controlling the actions of our nation so that the enemy is progressively winning without even firing a single shot. Now, I intend to name names. John S. Service. And remember that name, if you will.
I have never knowingly transmitted any information which was, shall we say, secret military plans.
Those accused by McCarthy as being communists were often blacklisted or refused jobs and other services because of these communist accusations.
Service was hounded out of the State Department.
I had trouble renting homes, renting an apartment in New York. And the companies, well, what will our stockholders say, you know? So the companies that I had known and had dealings with abroad, export companies, they said, sorry, we think you're a fine guy, but we don't dare touch you.
Even if there were only one communist in the State Department, even if there were only one communist in the State Department, that would still be one communist too many.
However, government officials were not the only ones targeted. Famous actors and actresses such as Lucille Ball and Charlie Chaplin were accused of either being a communist or sympathizing with communist views. Communism began shifting into Hollywood. The House Un-American Activities Committee, HUAC, was created. Its mission was to investigate allegations of communist activity in the United States. HUAC only added to the fear and intimidation that arose because of the Cold War tensions.
At home, Americans feared red subversion. Congress revived the House Committee on Un-American Activities. In 1947, the committee investigated Hollywood, factory of America's imagination.
Have you ever observed any communistic information in any scripts? Well, I have turned down quite a few scripts because I thought they were tinged with communistic ideas. They haven't attempted to use me, I don't think, because apparently they know that I'm not very sympathetic to communism.
There has been a small group within the Screen Actors Guild which has consistently opposed the policy of the Guild board and officers or the Guild itself as evidenced by the vote on various issues. That small clique has been referred to, has been discussed as more or less following the tactics that we associate with the Communist Party.
If I had my way about it, they'd all be sent back to Russia or some other unpleasant place.
McCarthy targeted the United States Army as his final group in 1953. The Army McCarthy hearings became 35 days of televised hearings and, of course, McCarthy alleged that the entire investigation was an act of communism by FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover. The United States Army appointed Joseph Welch to be their attorney. Welch was able to get a hold on McCarthy's FBI accused list. McCarthy then accused Welch of having communist sympathies. Later that year, the Democrats regained control of the Senate, and on January 2nd of 1954, the senator voted 67 to 22 to censure Senator McCarthy.
Assassinate this lad further, Senator. You've done enough. Have you no sense of decency, sir? At long last, have you left no sense of decency?
The McCarthy era was one of accusation, panic, and fear. With the spread of communism in Asia, many Americans began fearing the communist menace. Joseph McCarthy, with the help of the House Un-American Activities Committee, used his own brand of McCarthyism to do nothing but add to the fear of many Americans. The Americans who were blamed for communism often were made outcasts and lost their credibility. McCarthyism not only destroyed the lives of many Americans by labeling them communist and causing them to lose their jobs, it also added to the fear that communism would overpower the democratic United States. The United States lost its reputation for having the most civil liberties, as McCarthy and other anti-communist groups took them away by stripping their rights of action and speech. Innocent people had to go through the trauma of being prosecuted by their own country. McCarthy went from accusing government officials to accusing Hollywood stars and producers who he felt were advocating communist values. The McCarthy era discouraged many individuals from expressing their opinion, as they could be prosecuted for it if it went against the anti-communist belief.